You're listening to Find the Good News, Episode 16, The Awakening, featuring Heather Boston. This episode of Find the Good News is sponsored by Parker Brand Creative Services, a branding agency that thinks sideways, pushes forward, and gets your brand up. Check out our work at parkerbrandup.com. Would you like to help make sure I'm asking my guests the really good questions? Just visit findthegood.news and click the Questions tab. I'll see if I can get your question dropped in the fishbowl. Each episode, my guests will dive deep, select 3 random questions, and if yours is selected, I'll ask it on the show. That's findthegood.news. I can't really pinpoint where I was first exposed to Heather Boston's artwork, but what I do remember is stopping each time to look at her creative works. The art itself gave me much to think about, but it was Heather's reflections and revelations shared through her art that really gave me pause. So I reached out to see if she'd come and visit me on Find the Good News. Just like her artwork, there are layers and layers that unfold in Heather. Within minutes, we were diving off a cliff into divine territory, discussing angels, visions, gifts, dimensions, time, healing, and love. I want to be simple and clear. Heather is fearlessly operating over the border in a spiritual territory that I believe many hearts are called to, but few fully answer. If I'm being honest, I have 1 foot in and 1 foot out, and I admire human beings like Heather that go to the edge, leap off, then fly. There's something very special happening with Heather, something unique being shared through her works of art, which are really works of heart. There are questions, answers, messages, and timeless truths crying out to be heard from the paint. I invite you to settle in and listen to this visit with Heather with an open mind and heart. She reminds me that what we think is going on in the day-to-day hustle isn't all that there is, and that there are unseen, loving forces dancing about this world, and they often are revealed in the awakened human heart. Any day you get to soak in the fall-off light from a heart like this, a heart like Heather's, is a good day indeed.
Wake up, it's morning. You're dreaming up a story. I can hear the way it's going, 'cause you're laughing in your sleep on the path to your deliverance, and a holy wall of light pouring through your window.
Old news, bad news, fake news. Sometimes you just want to shut it all down and get no news at all. With Find the Good News, I aim to change that by focusing on good people doing good work. I visit with artists, educators, civic and spiritual leaders, musicians, business owners, students, volunteers, and everyday citizens who are using their creativity, resources, and talents to bring hope and happiness to their corner of the world. In each episode, I dig into the hearts and minds of my extraordinary guests. We have street-level conversations about relatable things going on in their lives. Discover the critical life experiences that shape them, the perspectives that drive them, and the fundamental beliefs that are anchoring them to a path of goodness. There's a lot of news in the world. My name is Oran Parker, and I'm going to find the good.
And I love you just as well.
So like anything, this show is sort of a labor of love, I guess, for me. I've said this on the show before. I don't know if you have a chance. Have you listened to any of them?
I did, and your voice is so soothing.
Oh, no, really? I didn't know that.
Not in a bad way. It was just like so relaxing.
Wow, I've never heard that before.
Really, it is.
No, I never have.
You need to do meditations.
Well, that's interesting. I need to send you a link to I did a Divine Mercy chant a while back.
You're supposed to do meditations or something like that.
It's always felt like that. And then I do privately meditate, and pray. But sharing that with others, as most things, sometimes I find I run into fear, and just truly letting go and being who you're supposed to be versus...
Especially the society we live in now.
Sure. I have all those fears and all those things, just a layer cake like everybody. I think probably most of us have layers and layers and layers. You just got to start digging.
You do, and it's painful, but it's beautiful, though.
Yeah.
Very beautiful.
Excavation.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of my favorite podcasters, you know, I rarely call into shows, but I actually called into his because he's an explorer, you know, in his mind. And what I mean, like, literally, he's such a unique person because he allows his mind to go places very innocently. And I find a lot of refreshment in that. And I'm like, you know, I called and said, you're really an explorer, because he said these words and I loved them. He said, I want to climb the Himalayas inside myself.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, yeah, man.
That's deep.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot.
And that's a lot of people come to me and they're drawn to me because it isn't innocent, and I know what I know, and I trust that because God showed me my truth and showed me the truth in other people. And it's okay. And I am who I am, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
And it is innocent. It's a humbling experience that I've experienced. And God shows everyone their own truth and the depth of it in their own way and in their own time. So I've learned not to take it personally if someone doesn't understand me or tries to judge me in the place that I am right now, because they just don't understand it yet.
Sure, I get that. I would say I'm rediscovering that because I've discussed this with my wife, poor wife. She has to listen to all this stuff. But, you know, I would say it was probably 2021 when I had an experience that just changed my whole worldview, my whole life, and everything from that day. It just, I don't know, it retooled my eyes. I don't know how to say it. I mean, I don't even know how to explain it sometimes, but something just changed. It was like sort of like a vision of harmony and a vision of chaos at the same time.
Yes.
And it all sort of was imbalanced together. And I wanted to be that person. I wanted to follow that train. And I feel like for many years I did, but I got derailed. And it's my own. I derailed myself by chasing after things that I thought I wanted in the world, right? And so the cake gets built. And so, you know, some things happen where you start to go digging and pulling those layers off again, and you go, oh, you know, this is who I really was, this is who I am. And I just sort of derailed a little bit. Well, now I can use those 20-year gap of that I have here with these experiences and say, who am I now with that person in context? Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. And I don't see it as a derailment. I see it as a growing period, and you're taking the good and the bad and part of the spiritual gift of being adaptable and then incorporating it into the person that you are now. So it's all a part of the journey.
Sure.
And trusting the process. And everything is about detail. And we may just ignore all the details and not be aware of the divine miracles that are within each moment and each day. We take it for granted because everyone's on this speed train. We got to get this done. We got to do this. We have to do it this way. Society wants it this way. People want it this way. Instead of God wants us to live within the moment and like embrace that and to have joy within it. And it's not about all the rushing and things have to be done this way. People have to see things this way, because who are these people that made it be that way?
Sure.
If that makes sense.
No, it totally makes sense. I mean, you know, I get exactly what you're saying.
Like,
I mean, I
who
can
are
look.
they?
Yeah, because I can look in the mirror and see those people. Mm-hmm. You know, because they're in me too.
Yeah.
I do it every day. Mm-hmm. You know. Yeah, well, we're sort of there was something I'd read a while back, as many years ago. It was called Letters to My Son. And this father wrote to his son, and he called them blue moments. I mean, there's various words for that, you know, but he would talk about these blue moments that he would string together. And he said, you know, we look for these big blue moments, as he called them, where they're stuck in your mind, you know, like they really stand out. But there's something that's gluing those moments together that we tend to ignore. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like what we talked about even with this little business was we really need to concern ourselves with the mortar, because most of us want bricks. Mm-hmm. You know, and you can stack some bricks up, but there's no support there, and the mortar tends to get ignored. And I think that maybe, like what you're saying, it's unextraordinary extraordinary, maybe.
It is true. And what bonds everything together is what's really, really important. It's not about the big pieces. It's not about the big shows. And that's what God showed me through my art and through different things and how my art's evolved. It's not about all that big stuff. It's all about the minor details and the glue that bonds them all together to make that big picture.
Well, so you just got right into what I want to talk about. I want to talk about a lot. But what fascinates me is something about your art. And it's not just your art. You know, I don't know you except from online, so it's always fascinating to meet somebody and get to sit and talk, you know, in person. But so what I saw, just observing that online persona, which seems to be authentic to who you are, which that's not always the case with everybody, but for you, it seems that way. When I saw you posting your art, I mean, obviously, initially, you're just attracted to the art, right? The colors and the interesting shapes and what's going on there. And so I looked at that, but then it was always what you added to it yourself. The way you would explain it and the things, the meaning, and the way they would sort of change over a course of days as you would post them, and then you would see new things and have new revelations. I thought that was fascinating. But then, as I followed you further, and I thought it was beautiful, was that you were seeing that same thing in the things around your everyday life. You would see light through a window, or the way a cloud formation would, float across the sky, or just the way light might play on the ground or anything like that. And so you would go into that and like sort of dive into those things and begin to have a revelation. And so I'd love it if you could talk to me about that. And I mean, I feel like I sort of intuit what you're doing in my heart, but like for some, not everybody's going to do that. So how does that happen for you, and what is the trip to get you there?
Okay, not everyone understands, and being an artist pretty much my whole life, but I really became what I call a spiritual artist, and understanding fully who I am as an artist. It started about 2 years ago. I had 2 studios, and Jesus came to my studio. Out of the blue, really, he came to my studio for 3 days. And he cried. And I was a hot mess. And I didn't understand what was going on. And like all my spiritual gifts happened at one time. So I was really overwhelmed. And I didn't know what was going on. But I kind of knew because I had those gifts as a child.
Gotcha.
And my mom prayed him away because it scared our family. So a tad bit I knew what was going on. But I didn't because he was crying. And so he had me line all of my paintings that were in my studio on the floor. And I didn't know what he was doing. And then I wrote all this stuff on marker boards. And he was having me write all this stuff. I'm going to cry. But like having me write all this stuff. And I didn't still understand it. So I went on a walk of the cross in Moss Bluff, middle of the night. It's crazy. He had me pick up this log. It was like everything just happened so perfectly. And I literally carried this log on my back through, like, I call it like a wishbone road. And then I went to all these different like spots, and I had like a specific moment for me, like something I would understand. And I kind of refer to it as he would come, because Holy Spirit will refer to things that you only would understand, like music, symbols, movies, a lot of movies, but like the Ghost of Christmas Past. And sometimes I'll go through that where it's like I'm going through something that happened and God will show me that was a lesson. Now, what did you learn from that? And I'm not perfect. Everyone is going through things and fixing themselves, but going through those things, those 3 days, and hearing the power of God for the first time in my life. When people say it's like a thunderbolt and it's so strong and it's fear of God, he said paint. I was like, I don't know what to do. I'm freaking out. What am I doing? What do you want from me? I'm trying so hard. I had to take a break from teaching. A few of my students understood because God brought those light workers, because that's what we are. We're here to help raise the vibration of the world. We really are. And you are one as well, and you're doing your work. You're a light worker. And a lot of my students that God brought to me were special because they have very, very special gifts and they see things differently than other people do. And I didn't realize that, but for the times that I was teaching these children, the ones that were brought to me were very, very gifted, and they understood me as I understood them. And so when he said paint, I didn't. And then he got mad. I felt that he got mad.
I understand. Things got out of sync, sort of like a
it was
feeling
like of me feeling like I was trying to battle him, trying for control instead of surrendering myself to him. And still I wasn't understanding because the angel world and the divine world doesn't fully understand that we're still human sometimes. And so I'm still learning to understand them as they're trying to help me, because I have found out that I'm a clairvoyant, empathic, psychic medium, which is really hard to understand in the Christian world because in the Bible. But God showed me my gifts are to help heal the world. And so it's been really, really hard for me to embrace that when I'm very holy and I love God so much. You know.
I understand. It's okay. You can feel whichever you want to feel here.
So,
it's all right.
Having those gifts and wanting to help people, and then dealing with the other side of, death and dying, and then knowing that these people want to come through to relay a message because, say, this person has been really down and battling themselves because they don't know. They have unfinished business. They really do, and it's real. That helps heal someone. And it closes it off and they can move on. That's what people don't understand. And it's not for evil and it's not used for bad. And I really feel that spiritual gifts really need to be taught more for people to understand them more.
I understand what you're saying because, as I'm listening to you, I can't help but think this, and I'm still wading through years of jaded mud, so to speak. And I've had many conversations like that because what you're saying is you heard God very clearly with a pretty powerful directive that once it's in you, to ignore it causes a feeling.
It does.
And then, I can't say I'm alien to that. That's an alien thing to me. And, you start talking like that. And what's well, let me back up, I guess, to try to say it clearly. We live in sort of a world where we say, love God, pray to God, talk to God. But the minute you say God's talking back, then things change for you, especially if you have faith in that God is talking back. God is literally working in my life, not in a subtle way, but in a very demanding, all-pervading way, and wants to leak into everything I'm doing, right? So you start talking like that, and then all of a sudden relationship begin to shift, and certain people go, I don't know about that. And I've experienced that, especially when I was younger, maybe probably beginning to experience that again now, because I have relationships from the life I've built that go, what are you talking about? Did you experience anything like that?
I did. I lost a lot of friends that weren't, I don't like to say weren't friends, because I believe everyone comes in our life for a purpose and a reason.
Sure.
And I truly try not to hold grudges. Honestly, I don't feel I hold grudges now. God shows me the truth. That's part of my gift. I see the truth in people. I take things as they come now, especially friends, and I try to make a mark or leave something with everyone. Like, we just went to New Orleans this past weekend for an art show.
Yeah.
And my son, every homeless person I see, or anyone on the street for that matter, I always go talk to them. I'll leave them with something. Even if it's not money, it's something, because I'm supposed to. And even if I'm broke, I'll do it because God told me to. And my family didn't understand that at first, but they've ever since I've been going through this, it's been a really gradual change. But I get so excited because, like, I'm rubbing off on them, and they'll be like, oh, look at that cloud, or look at that. There's a heart right there. It's pushing the limit and letting them see what people don't normally see. So they're taking the time to see that. And that's really, really important to God, because you're seeing the joy within a hole in the cement, you know, when people just walk over that, and it really excites me. And like my son watching me witness to a homeless man was very powerful for him, because he'd be like, because his dad, you don't trust everybody, and this, and
that's the way the world teaches us to be, right? No, I
but you love everyone despite that. And my son gave me a hug, and it's like, I love you for doing that. And it's just being that positive example and trying to be. And even if people do not understand it right now, they will.
Yeah.
So I'm going to keep showing them what I see, the messages in the sky. I'm going to keep showing them what I see within the paintings and with the pictures. And when I see the reflections of the sun hit the lake or the water, is dancing. It really is. And taking in that moment, it's really opened my eyes, and it's really beautiful. It's a whole different life, and bringing in new people that are supposed to be there. And I don't understand fully what I'm doing. I don't. Especially job-wise and things. I apply all these places. I get denied. And God's like, you're supposed to paint. I was like, okay. You know,
sure.
That's what he tells me. And I do. And I'm going with the flow. And you're talking to someone who is fully surrendered. I closed my art studio. He told me to walk away from my studio that day when he came. Told me to turn my vehicle in. Told me to move, live with my mother. Told me to do all this stuff to go through whatever he had me to do, and I did.
That's difficult, because you know how many people across the history of humankind have heard a call like that, but so many of us ignore it or only go halfway in, a waist deep, you know. And
people think you're crazy. When you follow God, like fully follow God, they really think you're nuts.
Well, look, you look around this office, okay? You were looking around when you walk in, and you're going to find images in here of people who we elevate. We make statues of them. Mm-hmm. We teach our children about them. We call them saints. We call them holy people, holy men, holy women, prophets. Ancient texts are full of their names. And these are people who went all in, even resisted, but still ultimately went all in. And we elevate them, but yet when they're right in front of us in our living, breathing world, we want to tear them down sometimes, or we don't want to allow it. We want to call them crazy. Or, I mean, look, I get it, because I hear talk like that sometimes, like, well, you can't think that way, or, well,
but who are you to tell me I can't?
Yeah, and I go, well, where are we getting that plan that you can't think like that? Or, you know, you bring up New Orleans and the homeless. They have a lot of homeless in New Orleans.
Oh, it's so sad. Yes.
I had an experience like what you're describing, though, the last time I went there, and you know, if you can just mind me telling you the story. I've never forgot it. In fact, the guy's name is in my prayer book, and every time I read my names, he's in there, and I always think of that day. I got up to go get coffee. We had went there for something for my son, and it was early, and I said, well, I want to go enjoy New Orleans in the morning light, you know, and see the light on the buildings, and it was really cold. And so I went and walked across town and got a cup of coffee and far as I could, and just kind of walking back through the streets, just quiet. And I saw a man sleeping on, you know, one of the front of a business down there where we were staying at. And so I was crossing the road. I saw him, and it was exactly what we're talking about here, where it was just almost a nauseating knot in my stomach. And it wasn't just my conscience. It was like I turned around and I looked back at him, and I thought, it was like a tug of war began immediately. It was like just so much going on in that moment. Felt like timeless moment. And I I was like, go over there and talk to that man. And I was like, I don't have any, what can I do for that man? I mean, really, what can I do for that man? I mean, my wife and children in the hotel room. He can't come live with us. I mean, could he? And then just like all those thoughts, can he come live with us? Can we? I mean, just like 1,000 thoughts. I'm like, what would the reality of that be? And it's all just in these split seconds. And God's starting to paint this picture in your heart of what it would be like to go serve a person. Yeah. And if you stand in that moment, you actually go, yeah, I could do this. I could do that. I can't help this person. So all that's happening in a matter of seconds. And I just turn around and I go back and I sit with the man. It was just a really bad situation. Overall, I mean, I'll spare you the details, but it's about as bad a situation as you can get. I mean, a lot of medical problems that were visible and really pretty destitute. And so I sat on the ground with him and woke him up, and I asked him if he drinks coffee, and he said, yeah. And I said, well, here. And I hadn't drank more coffee, and he said, he started crying. Mm-hmm. And we just talked, and I asked him how he got there, and just he tells me his life and stuff. And so I tried to give him my jacket, and he wouldn't take it. So I gave him some money, and we talked some more. But then he said, and he just, the weeping, and what he said just, I don't know. I'll never forget it. He goes, are you real? And I said, what? And he said, are you even real? And I said, yeah. I grabbed his hand, and I held his hand. I said, yeah, man, I'm real. And he goes, I'm sorry. He said, I'm not crazy. He said, it's just, I haven't talked to anybody actually talked to anybody in so long. And he said, and you're sitting on the ground. Yep. You didn't just give me money and walk away. He said, I haven't felt like a person.
Because they walk right by.
Yeah.
Like they're not, and like when we run into the trolley, I don't ever do anything. I'm always just like taking care of family, everybody else's family, or doing something with family. And my sister's like, come out with us tonight. I'm like, okay. So they're in wheelchairs in the middle of the streets with sheets over them while everyone is dancing around them, and I couldn't do it. Like, I was crying. And while they're human beings, they have a story, and some of them are the most coolest people I've ever met. They really, who wants to live on a street? Sure.
There was a guy here in Sulphur I stopped to talk to one day. I was at Walgreens, and I had a rosary around my neck that I'd made, and I actually had a bunch of them that I had made in my truck. And so I was walking by, and he said, hey, that's a nice cross. And I said, well, you know what? And I'd made a point that I was going to give them away. I said, I got one for you. So I went and I got it out of the truck, and I sat down with him on the side of the Walgreens, and he just starts testifying. Like, the guy knew scripture in and out. I mean, he almost did this whole passion play right in front of me. And he told me, he pulls his hat off, and he has a bullet hole in his head. And he said, I wear a hat, to hide this bullet hole. He said, I got shot in the head. And he said, man, nobody talks to me. And I told my wife when I got home, I'm skipping over a lot of the details of this gentleman, but I said, it was weird. I said, because when he was doing that passion play, like right in front of me, it just on beat and just beautiful. I said, I honestly felt like I saw Jesus. You did. He was Jesus, like right there on the side of the road. And I went home and said, I just can't get it. Every time I think of that guy now, I see Jesus. He was showing me the things he was saying. I don't know. It was like it was pouring in this hole in the top of my head, Mm-hmm. And I think that if we we need to look up, but I think if we don't look down, we're going to miss him.
You do, because I always tell my kids and tell my family, Jesus shows up in my life all the time in physical form. And before Jesus came to my studio, a few earth angels came in, I guess like a warm-up. I didn't exactly know what was going on, but I told everybody. I was like on Facebook, like, look, this just happened, and some crazy stuff's going on, and I'm not sure what's going on. But Jesus shows up all the time. It's just like, are you listening? He'll tell me to tell people, like on Facebook, are you listening? Are you paying attention? Because every day he will make an appearance in your life. Stranger, family, anything. He does, and he's done it several times. Like one time I was in an art show, I was doing and I give all my art away. Almost. I call it Paint It Forward. I've been doing it for about 5 years of donations and things.
Really?
And for auctions, nonprofits, local organizations, things like that. But I was at the doing live at the lakefront. They had the bands playing. One of these homeless people, I forget his name, it's going to bother me really, but he would come and help me the 3 Fridays to hold it because the wind was so bad. That was Jesus. This man, I think he's Abe, Al, I think his name is Mr. Abe, but he helped me so much. But this one man came up on a bike. He was homeless. He made me a ring out of a $5 bill and put it on my fingers. And he told me, you'll never understand what this means to you right now. He said, I've given out over, he said 1,000 of those in a week. His eyes were piercing blue, and he winked at me. And one thing God always showed me, that Jesus winks. He does. When someone, that's like one of his signals when he winks. So it's kind of funny, and I kind of laugh about it, but I don't know. I see Jesus all the time.
And I'm happy, I know it.
You've probably heard me mention filming videos, building websites, creating logos, or building brands on this podcast. Well, there's a good reason for that. I'm a brand builder, and my brand is Parker Brand Creative Services. My team and I have built countless brands in the Gulf Coast region, and a lot of our work in the travel and tourism industry is experienced across the country and honestly the whole world. We have our specialties: web, logo, package, and whole brand design, as well as video production and photography. But the reality is, we function as a full-service advertising agency to businesses that don't really mesh well with larger advertising agencies or just don't want to have in-house creative departments. But don't listen to what I say. Just go to our website, parkerbrandup.com, and take a look at what we do. We're a show it, don't say it team. Okay, you should definitely say it too, but you know what I mean. That's parkerbrandup.com. We think sideways, we push forward, and we'll get your brand up.
So take this, you've earned it, a melody and chorus.
I gotta tell you, I sometimes I think it's important to share stories of, I guess, shame, but they're learning stories. But there's a gentleman around Sulphur who is kind of in that category, I guess, for me. I used to go up and go on these morning prayer walks, and I would always start out of the Grove and kind of walk through the city, and then at the end go back and sit. And one day, this guy who kind of wanders around town, he plays guitar and stuff, and he came up to me, and he saw I was making a knotted chord, and he said, and he just said, he goes, "Oh, are you a Christian?" I said, "Yeah, I'm a Christian." And I had just begun really saying that out loud for the first time in a long time, because I really couldn't. It was always important for me to have a way to frame it, because I think the answer Christian for me was meant something different to me than maybe I thought it might have meant to others. And that's not fair, because I don't know others, but I just always had that projection that I put out there. So I didn't say it.
I understand that.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, because I don't like labels, and God keeps showing me He doesn't like the labels.
Well, He constantly breaks through them. Yeah, so
He doesn't like labels. He doesn't even like the label of Christian. He doesn't like labels.
Well, yeah, and that's kind of where I was at too.
People take it in different forms, and you can run with things in different ways.
I've experienced that up to this very day. I mean,
in religion, it's
when I say Christian, somebody else says it, we might mean two different things, right? And we can say that it's in the basics, we all agree, and go, well, maybe sometimes even there, that's not always the case.
Yep.
So I was hesitant, but I said it. Yeah, I am, because obviously I'm making a cross. I mean, I must have some Christian inclinations.
Yeah.
And we had a really strange conversation, but it was a very amicable and good conversation. And he was friendly, and he left. And so, oddly enough, a couple of weeks later, I was at Goodwill, and I always did this sort of like Bible rescue there. Every time I saw Bibles, I'd buy them and then keep them and give them away. Well, I picked one up that day, and it had the guy's name in it. And I was like, hey, this is the guy I just met the other day.
Wow.
So I kept it. And,
no mistakes.
Yeah. But then he started, I did this prayer walk where I started inviting people to come with. And he shows up one day real early in the morning, and he was getting a little wild, I guess. I don't know what else to say. Just kind of saying stuff that was kind of scaring everybody there, and I don't know, being kind of aggressive. And so I had to go off because I had talked to him before, and I said, hey, look, you're kind of scaring the people here. They're here to, I don't know, you and I have a thing, but they don't all have the same thing with you, right?
Yeah.
So you just pull back. And then the more I think about that interaction, sometimes I just go, God, the shame I feel of it, because the more we would have that event there and the more he would show up and do that, the more I started avoiding him, And so as time went by, I avoided him more and more. And then one morning I was out there by myself.
Were you embarrassed of him?
I wasn't embarrassed of him. Felt like it was my duty to protect the people there. Now, of course, that's me framing it and making it all correct.
Yeah.
But in my mind, it was still bothering me that I even had to do that, because that wasn't what I was out there for.
Yeah.
He's as welcome as anybody else is what I was out there for. That would be the way I would frame that. But one morning, I was out there by myself, and he came up and walked up to me, and I realized at that point that he didn't recognize me every single time we talked. So I knew there was something not connecting there. So I thought, well, he doesn't, here I am, I've built. I'm just pausing.
Do you want me to lock this?
Yeah. This is Nicole, by the way.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you as well.
Here I am. I've built this sort of a wall, I guess, or I built this sort of framework for the way I'm supposed to interact with this fella. And then I've got all this perception in my point of view, and then here it is. He doesn't know me from time to time. Sometimes he remembers me, sometimes he doesn't. So that told me right there.
Maybe he wasn't remembering every time you go pushing him aside.
Yeah.
Aside and
but
telling him.
This is what he says that day, though. He goes, hey, Bubba. And he came up and gave me a hug. He goes, you're that Christian guy. And I said, yeah. And I left there and was like, man, I can't do that anymore. That was so, and that was just a old-fashioned world just creeping on in, just putting me in a position and me allowing it to do it, and then restructuring and trying to fit and form. And I was like, you know what? I don't need to do that. And I felt ashamed. I did. Honestly, I'm ashamed to even say it right now, because I realized in those moments, the lesson is he was being used in that moment as Christ to remind me. He was Christ winking at me, going, hey,
Yeah,
I see what's going on in you, and I got to break that up for you.
Yeah, I'm going through some family things, and just talking to you today, it makes me realize the tests we go through, and even though we are adaptable to certain things, and we are the light, and a lot of us take in, I don't call it conduits or transducers of the vibrations and energies, and we're supposed to help balance things out. But I am human, and we do get overloaded, and we have to process things and just, meditate, chill, center ourselves. But the thing is, it's not that I don't care about other people, and it's not that I don't care about other people's opinions. I care, but I care about what God sees in people, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah, it does.
So,
yeah.
When people are judging people, or especially church, and I go to all kinds of churches. I go to different ones. Wherever God calls me to go, I will go, because I'm supposed to hear that message, and I'm supposed to meet different people, and that's what I do. But I don't see people the way the world sees people. And I'm not a normal person, I guess you would say.
I understand what you're saying.
I don't like to be, I'm a very open book, very, very open, and I don't like the society. I call them the Stepford wives, because a lot of people are living that life. They're just like robots. They're living certain things. We go get our coffee in the morning. We go to work. We have to stay over for work. There's deadlines. There's this.
Sure.
And they're missing out on all the beautiful things in between.
Yeah, sure.
And especially with their children and things, it's always, we have to have the best of the best. We have to do the best of the best. We have to do this. We have to do that. Who tells you have to do that?
Right. Right. We were talking about that at our morning meeting this morning.
Like, who are you? That's what God keeps showing me.
Who are
these
you?
people?
And who are you? Yeah.
Who am I? And who are these people telling you that you're supposed to live this way? No, and it's part of a spiritual awakening, and that's what you went through. And then you kind of go. It never stops. And that's what I went through when Jesus came to my studio. It was a really big awakening all at one time. And
it's hard to process.
It's very hard to process. And it's really beautiful, but it's very, very painful. And then to have like all the cords cut, and then you making that decision with God, you fully surrendered, so He's going to take, once you admit all, like you accept that, and He will take every person that's not meant for your higher purpose out of your life. It's really painful, but
well, ego probably grasps onto those things because they help us identify ourselves or what we think is our identity.
And then you let go of ego.
Yeah, because you're building a house all around you, right? I mean, you've got all these nails and screws and all this stuff you've hung on the walls, and the wallpaper and the furniture, and you've got all the little stuff tucked away, and it's all yours.
But you're not breathing.
Right.
Because once you do, is
and then here comes a storm comes in and rips all that out, or takes it a piece at a time.
And then you start from fresh, and then you actually really build what the true solid person that God wanted you to be, if that makes sense.
How much of who you see yourself as today? Because I mean, you said when you were a little girl, there were gifts, right? And then you said your mother prayed them away.
She did.
So,
and one day she asked me, she's like, "Does this and this happen anymore?" And I haven't heard. It's like, no, they were gone.
So, what were the gifts that what was going on when you were a child that your mom obviously saw?
See the dead, like
relatives or people or spirits,
and I could. At that point, didn't realize see future, past, because when I'm painting, I'm painting prophecy is what God showed me, and sometimes I feel like, oh, I don't have enough time. Like I want to, because time and money and being an artist is really stressful because well, I'm really like a struggling artist, and I give everything away, and I'm trying to balance that and find a harmony in that.
Yeah,
because I really want to take the time to explain everything within a painting, the full story of it, because it's very important of what I know for sure, like what I'm painting is very, very, very important, and there's a story within it. And so that's just,
I understand where you're going with that. So when you were a child, was that when you were doing your artwork as a child? Did you still have that at that point?
No, because I didn't really get really big into art until high school. So my art and the gift they weren't
together,
one.
Right? Okay.
So as a child, my main problem was the spirits trying to contact me and freaking me out.
So what was that like? I mean, how old are you when this starts? How old that you can remember?
8 and 10 years old.
8 and 10, okay.
That I remember.
So what was the first, the
only thing I can really remember is with my grandfather. I was in bed, but I was like, because I can project out. I didn't realize that then, but astral projection, all that's real. And I played sports back then, I still do, but I was on a basketball court, and my grandfather was there, and I didn't know him all that well, but I knew enough information that it freaked my family out. But he had a message, and he sat me in the center of a court, and he stood there beside me, and he explained his message he had for my grandmother. That was very, very, but I couldn't move out of bed. I couldn't get up. I knew it was going on, but I couldn't move.
So you had sort of like some sleep paralysis type
Yes, I was.
Stuff
and so stuff like that would happen. And it was kind of freaky. So and me being so young and going through different things, my mom prayed like this. She can't handle it. I don't think it's not necessarily I couldn't handle it. My family couldn't handle it. So now going through it all, part of my gifts, I see the truth through people. I see evil and good and evil. I'm clairvoyant, so I see future, past, and present. But I've asked, like last year, the weather. I knew it was going to snow. Just different things of the hurricanes and stuff. I would post on Facebook just a little bit. There's certain things I'm supposed to say and certain things you're not, because you don't want to scare people. And what us about our gifts, with the same as you, we're here to bring love and light to the world and not to scare the world. But what God has showed me is I'm a voice, and I'm supposed to say things to gain trust. So when the time comes when something really bad is to come and they need someone to listen to, that they'll trust and like, oh, Heather, it's kind of, I guess, like a track record, I guess. Like, oh, she was correct on this, and she was correct on that, and she was correct on this. And it's not about being right. Because my own family would be like,
well, it's not a gimmick in that.
It's not a gimmick at all. It's the truth. And so I'm really hesitant, and kind of God gets kind of frustrated, I think, with me, because I don't do it a lot, like more of what he wants me to be, that voice. And sometimes I dream I'm supposed to be on a radio show because of my messages. And he'll compare me to Woody Harrelson on the movie 2012.
Right.
And so
we just watched that again. My little boy is all into disasters and hurricanes and volcanoes and stuff. And we just watched this. I know exactly. I just had a refresher recently.
And so it's just crazy. And there's a whole lot more.
These things are hard to talk about, though.
Is.
I mean, it's hard to put words on what you're
talking about it, but it's true.
Do you ever find that when you try to explain this to somebody? I mean, look, I can't even imagine. To be honest with you, I rarely sit down with somebody that I could probably just jump off the deep end with. Mm-hmm. And I say that lovingly, like really just let all the cracks show and leak out all over the place, because that gets wild. Mm-hmm, because the language begins to, what I have found, the words just start to go, that doesn't explain it. I used to call this the is likes. For years I would say, well, it is like, because that's all I got.
But I have learned too, like I see auras, and there's just so much vibrations of energy everywhere, and I do know that I can heal people. Like I have the gift of healing through my hands, because my hands will vibrate and get really, really hot. But I'm learning. I'm learning. But if you ask God to show you, everyone has gifts. It's not like, oh, Heather's special, she's chosen. I mean, we're all chosen, and we're chosen for different things. I might have a higher calling in certain areas, but everyone has a gift. Now, it's with you being open to it, welcoming of it, and loving of it, and ready to embrace and hold that gift, and being that vessel, clean, pure vessel, to hold it and cherish it. Then it will come, and that's what I was shown. Also, all you have to do is ask. You ask God. You just ask Him, show me. And it may not be in the way you want it to be. It may not be in the timing you want it to happen. But He will show you. He will show you. And everything's happened backwards. Like with all this, it's all happened backwards. It's funny. It really is. But it is. It's all happening backwards. But He said it's all in the details. So I'm like, okay.
Well, sure, because I know exactly what you're talking about. I say exactly. And I mean, I do understand, because I tend to meditate on time a lot. And it's always been one of the biggest things that kind of gets my mind in the right space. And I know on a day-to-day pattern, I tend to think linear, because the world is linear. It's cyclical. The time moves forward, right? But when I start to contemplate things in the godly realm, when I start thinking about the things the way God sees it, or I say sees, again, there's another word that just sort of doesn't really explain what I'm saying. Sees implies eyes, and just to, begin.
It's beyond that, though.
Yeah, it's hard to explain that, but in that reality, I guess I'll use that word, time sort of doesn't mean anything the way we think of it. And so it's sort of forwards and backwards, and one saying that I've just kind of easily summed it up for me was, the end is like the beginning. It's the same. And as a human being, it's hard to comprehend those types of things with a squishy brain.
Some people don't want to think past, what I'm having, or you have the overly OCD people that have to have their things done this way. They don't want to be bothered with anything other than what they already know, or a lot of it's fear. But yes, the Bible is sacred. Yes, the Bible is sacred, but there's a lot more that meets the eye there.
There's this lovely I used to love to watch debates between two people within the same religion, but not necessarily the same practice. And there was Father Grishel. He was one of the speakers, and other debaters, and then there was a Protestant debater. And not that I would say one is well, I mean, if I'm being honest, I probably leaned more in Father Grishel's direction, but I didn't look at the other man and say, who's going to be right or wrong. It wasn't that experience for me. But Father Grishel's demeanor and his best answer was no answer at all, and I loved it every time. He said, well, there's a mystery to this. And he would say it with joy. Yeah. He was happy there was a mystery to it. Well, we don't know, and that's okay. There's a mystery. It was always that answer, and I was like, every time they would have a rebuttal, I think the other debater was looking for Father Grishel to point to a book or show him where it says, and where's it at in the canon or the doctrine or the catechism or the Bible, and this version or that version, and then the other guy was just kind of eat up with that. And Father Grishel humbly would just say, well, he would say make a small statement, and then say, but ultimately this is a mystery, and we have to be okay with there's a mystery. And I was just like, every time he would say mystery, I saw the door to God get bigger and bigger and bigger, and I find that I love the mystery more when I don't know. When I go, I've hit a wall. You can't explain this within any framework. You can debate it, and you can write books about it, you can theorize on it, but really, we just don't know. And I love that. To me, that reveals the face of God, so to speak, the mystery. Yeah.
And just like the mystery, like God showed me that he's going to clear the lake in Lake Charles, that it'll be clear. Like, I see the future of Lake Charles, and it's going to be amazing and beautiful, and it's going to be an attraction town, but it's going to be, I don't know how to explain it. The vibration is going to be high and beautiful, and it's coming, and I don't know the timeline on it, but when you were saying grid lines and ley lines, I learned when I went to Montana, are really, really important as well. I mean, you're talking about linear and time. I keep quantum leap, like the show, whatever.
Sure.
Quantum physics is really, really important. Yeah, people don't understand that either, but I'm still learning.
Yeah.
I'm still learning all that. I've leaned towards art therapy with having a nursing degree and then doing art. It's natural to me, and I didn't realize, like, doing my art studios, I was naturally doing art therapy with these kids.
Sure,
I really was. And then I did an IM project with my son's school, and I painted popsicle sticks, big ones, and I designed every one. I don't know how many thousands I did over a year.
Wow.
And I would deliver them to the school for his grade. And then at the end of the year, for his class, though, is I framed each child's their own, because the teacher saved them in a shoe rack in the room. And I framed each child one, and then I painted their name so they would have it as a forever keepsake. So that's like one of the projects I did with the school. And I love, like, giving back and making an impact slowly, I guess.
Sure. Doing, right.
And then I'm working with Judge Ritchie with the judicial system. It's kind of my idea of Jesus calling for me to do an art program for the drug court, the juvenile justice system, and the veterans. So them getting in trouble, that they can come to me, because I want to heal the core.
Yeah.
I want to heal the core of what's really going on, for them to find who they really are and heal them where they don't make the same mistakes again. Because a lot of people that are going in and out of the jail system, I know I kind of switched
No, there's
things, but I felt like I was
please
supposed
just
to.
navigate wherever. That's what we're here for.
But a lot of, they don't feel like they're worthy of.
There's a lot of people who feel like that out in the world.
And they don't feel like they're worthy.
I've felt that way before.
I do too. And you are worthy, and a lot of them just, they go in and it's normal for them, and they think it's okay. But I feel like someone had mentioned, oh, you need to target just the youth. And so what, do we give up on the adults then? That's how I felt, because the adults need just as much love as the youth do. Yeah, the youth are important because you're starting young and you're preventing something. But as being an adult, you can stop something and prevent something as well, and stop that pattern and keep to change it.
Yeah, and you're talking again. This is where our human thinking just, for me, gets in the way so often. Helping somebody in their adult life, if we say that that's only good then we're thinking linear. We're thinking just forward. We're not thinking by touching them today in their adult life. You're actually touching their whole history, possibly their family's history, their bloodline, all the way back. Yeah.
Like a family curse. I'm
yeah,
sitting
right.
here talking to you and I feel like a hypocrite because I'm going through something really deep in my family and I'm dealing with anger towards a certain person. And then I'm like talking about all this and I'm like feeling like the biggest hypocrite.
I feel like one every single day. Every time I sit behind this microphone.
It's easier to help a stranger than it is sometimes to help our own family.
But there's no pain with a stranger. There's no history with a stranger.
Yeah, so.
No, I get that. Look, I say this on the show a lot because it's become something very important to me, and it's something I'm trying to heal. And I love people,
I do too.
but I'm afraid of people.
Me too.
That's why
recluse. Mm-hmm.
we can hurt. We hurt each. People hurt each other.
Trust is a big issue with me.
Well, with family, yeah. That's. I mean, I actually got. Well, look, I have something like that too, where there's just a history within a side of my bloodline that has a lot of pain in it that goes back further than I know. I mean, and for a long time there was a resentment towards it, and I've seen the disasters that it's caused and the lives it's wrecked, and I'm like, and I see it still in me, like the pieces of that are still like just little pieces of shattered glass still scratching up my insides. And so somewhere it's got to stop, and so I have to find those markers in my day-to-day life where I can go, well, here's a moment where that old curse could really wreck my child or this person in my life. So how can I break it, even if the glass is cutting, even if I'm holding on to it, even if my hands are bleeding because of it, I've got to make that effort, because it's a blood curse in a way, but it's going to take blood to heal the curse. Not literal blood, but figurative, like spiritual work. And
a lot of people don't think that they can stop it.
Yeah, you can.
It's just in my blood. It's all
I used to think that way.
It's hereditary. No, it's all within your human will and your divine work of wanting to change something within yourself. And you can do it. It's a power within you.
I think sometimes we want to see a result from our actions because we've sort of been taught that if you do a thing, there's something, then you get paid back. And maybe that is the law of karma and cause and effect. Yeah, but we see things based on what we remember most of the time, whatever's in your brain from your birth to now. So that line is sort of formed, and you're expecting the next thing, or if I did this thing, I expect to see the result. But if if you think, like, again, think, a word that doesn't make sense, like God thinks, that time, you know, fast forward 100 years, 1,000 years, in infinite, you know, you don't know what that little tiny work that you're doing is just changing in the big wheel of time.
Everything. And that little work you might do to someone, the little thing of kindness that you will, even on a homeless person, you never know if that will change someone's life. Even doesn't even have to be homeless. It can be someone in a grocery store. I never meet a stranger, whether I'm in a grocery store, anywhere. I always speak to the person in front of me and behind me, because there is a reason why they're in front of me or behind me. They're always, no matter who's in a room, a business, on the street, there is always a reason for that timing of everyone to be in that place at that moment. Always.
Yeah, that's sort of the big deception of evil in a way, is that we're all just shuffling along and only certain things matter. And so you sort of camp up, you know, you put your little walls up, you build your encampment of those people that you love because they're safe, supposedly. Well, the other big trick is that a lot of times those are the very people that aren't safe. The ones that are in your camp, you know, and they got the plague and you don't know it.
Yeah.
You know, now granted, that doesn't mean you disregard them either, but that's what we're kind of taught, you know. Sharpen the post, build the fort, bring everybody you love inside, and don't go too far out of the fences. We do that with our churches, we do that with our cities, we do it with our governments, our countries. I mean, it spreads out, and it's kind of the disease.
Yeah, and just even like churches, they have cliques, and it's like certain people do this and certain people do that.
Sure. It happens everywhere.
Everywhere.
The whole world, yeah. I mean, it's true. I experience it. I mean, you know, and that's where a lot of my biggest struggle, I guess, that gets in my way is that very thing, is one, resisting those things because they're in me too. Because I build my own cliques. I can sit here and grow 10 arms, pat myself on the back on saying, oh, I'm open-minded, and, you know, I'm accepting and loving, and I can make a whole list of all the things. But then for every single one of them, I can draw a line to it and show you 20 times or more a day that I'm not any of those things.
Yep.
And it's the small ones that get me. It's that death by 1,000 cuts. It's those little sneaky, subtle thoughts where I'm avoiding a person or choosing to not interact with them. And I can tell myself, oh, you know, that's nothing. I'm just shuffling along like everybody else. But it's really just little triggers or little judgments I've made to help me steer my ship just out of their reach.
But sometimes it's okay, though.
Sometimes it is, yeah.
You need to, for your own... Because we all have, when you talk about a wall, we all have our own vibration, you know, our own energy aura. And sometimes we need them to stay away from it to keep us where we're not fractural, where we're together and we're whole. Yeah. Because they'll throw out the balance and the harmony of what we have going on and what we need at that moment. Yeah, I get what you're saying. That's what I'm shown. Most of the things that I would find in myself that cause judgment or segregation, most of it is not really real stuff. It's old, dirty laundry. You know, it's stuff from childhood. It's experiences that you go, dang, that happened when I was 5, but I'm 44 and I'm still making a decision based on that information that I never really analyzed. And because I did it for so long, I've built a callus, you know, and now I got to take that cheese grater and kind of start shaving it off, you know. It's an internal callus. Really and so a lot of my stuff is like that, the blocks, and they're just things all over the place, little stumbling blocks like that. But the bigger times when I really do feel like something's really saying this is not good, that's different. That's more of like, I guess it's like empathy in a way. It is. It's like, look, this is a feeling, and trust it. I don't have any reason to feel this way. This person's not doing anything to trigger this. I just feel unsafe, or it's your inner knowing, and you are an empath, and you're taking on that energy, and it's just warning you, like, just there's a reason for it. You may not understand it, but you can ask God to show you the reason why you feel that way about a certain person, and He'll show you. I do that all the time because I'm like, because I doubt, and I'm used to be really naive because I want to trust everyone, and that's a big reason why I've been single for so long. It's because I'm trusting that God will bring him to me, and it was a big trust issue with different things. But there's a reason why we have that aura, and why we have it's a sacred space. And if something's coming in to mess with that and mess with what God has you've been working so hard to build, there's a reason. You always trust your gut. You always trust that feeling. Always.
I've noticed you've used this word, and I would love to hear you talk about it online. And you've used the word vortexes.
Yes, I'm learning about them.
So, what do you mean when you say that? And maybe I'd love to hear.
I'm no pro. I'm learning. I just know that when I paint, I see my art vibrate, and I'll see kind of like portals, and because dimensions are real. Dimensions are very real. I see them. I see angels. I see things, and so. When I went to Montana, I was went to Mount Helena.
Montana?
Yes, the rock I brought used from there.
Yeah.
The megaliths, and Miss Julie Ryder, she is to help discover the Giant's Playground. And when I went there, I went from the bottom of Missoula and went on this like really lifetime journey trip within like 7 days from Missoula all the way to the top of Yellowstone and went down the other side of it. And my first time to ever camp a tent, anything, doing it at midnight, but this moon was so bright, it was like having a light shine. It was so gorgeous. And so, went to do a tour with her. And you have to have a certain vibration to walk past this area. And it was so real, because I witnessed it. Someone couldn't pass it. It was really amazing.
Interesting. But
it's like sacred land. And when I go in certain places, and like say if you're going for a walk, and again, I'm not real. I'm learning more about Kundalini and the ley lines and all that kind of side of it, but I don't overwhelm. And I'm shown we're not supposed to overwhelm ourselves with all the gurus and the hemp law and all that kind of stuff. You just like you do meditate. You go with the flow, and God shows you what you need at the right time. So when I go, like, say, walks here, and there's a place called the Rosemarie in Ragley, and I go through the woods, I'll go through, if I see an arch under the woods, the trees make arches, I'm supposed to go under there, and I'll go through different things, and it's like our own mind map, I guess.
Yeah, sure, I get you.
You get me?
I do, yeah.
And like we're opening things, and it reminds me of the Chronicles of Narnia in a way.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, there's a space where
it's like unlocking things, and I really feel that and believe that because I've seen it. And when I went to Montana, that's how it happened. And I went sliding down in between these huge rocks of the Giant's Playground you saw the handprints and the footprints.
Wow.
It was amazing.
I've never been. I mean, it sounds amazing.
Amazing. And it was just, you could see the aura vibrating off of everything. I don't know how to explain it. I can't explain it. It's one of those things you were saying earlier.
There's no word for that.
There's no words, but when I got to my place, where it was like another one of my gifts is navigation. It's internally, I can navigate really well. It's like I've done it before, just by looking at rocks, the way the trees go, the limbs and leaves, and paying attention to all that is. And when you're in nature, and then there's no wind blowing, but you'll see the leaves rustle like they're waving at you. Now that's spirit, the Holy Spirit, is noticing and getting in tune and in touch with that. It's really, really beautiful. And so I levitated off this mountain, and my body vibrated. I didn't know what was going on because my eyes were closed, and I was singing, and I sing in the Holy Spirit, and people are iffy about tongues, but I speak it and I sing in tongues. And that happened when Jesus came to my studio. It's like I don't know how to explain it. To go back to that moment for a second, but when that all happened, I was like, the angels move my body around, if that makes sense. They do. They move my body around and adjust things, and they're healing me. And so, but this moment, they bowed me. Like I was bowing down, and then I felt it. And it was like a sword was over my shoulder. It was like I was being ordained or something, if that makes sense. And that all happened, and then I speak in tongues, and I've had some really powerful things happen to me over the past 2 years. But like me levitating, and the spirit, the lady there, Miss Julie, she was talking and said, yeah, it was bright magenta. I said, yeah, I saw the magenta through my eyes, and I could feel it was vibrating. She goes, you levitated off the mountain. And she told the girl that I was with that you need to understand and respect that you're in the presence of a very powerful spiritual warrior. And that's what she called me. And I was really like thrown off a little bit, you know. But she gave me a crystal to hold on when I walked into there. And for me to hold it while I was going through the mountains and our journey. And I do get downloads from the angels and stuff. And it's like bright blue light and stuff will come. But I still have this crystal. I almost brought it today. But it's pretty powerful. And when I hold it, it's a different feeling I can't explain. It's like a coolness, but it's an ease, if that makes sense. On the vortexes, I don't really understand them exactly yet. But I do know that I helped open that one, and I helped open one in Ragley.
So, I don't want to jump back, if you don't mind.
That's fine.
When you're in your studio and Jesus comes to your studio, and you said the angels were there, what is I mean, and I know this is going to be hard to explain, but in words, but what is the first perception at that moment that you can recall where you go, something's happening right now? Like what was that moment? Because obviously it happened quickly.
It did.
And it was a lot.
Okay, so like the whole shopping center had moved from a different spot to a new place, and my whole front end of my store is like all windows. They fogged up. There's nothing fogged, no other around the whole shopping center. The windows were fogged up, so it was privacy. Sometimes I think I wish I was shown it was a private moment for me, not to take photos, anything like that. When it happened, honestly, I don't know. I can't explain it. I was not myself, if that makes sense. I could have my parents, my family, students, parents could see, like, I was not, to me,
that day or that moment,
those few days.
Okay, so
that moment, I can't explain it. It wasn't real to me, but I wasn't like myself. I can't explain it.
That's okay.
There's no words to explain it. I didn't think it was real at first. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know what was going on, but I'm a very spiritual person, so it's not like me being an atheist or someone who didn't believe. Right,
you already had sort of.
I already have a strong
like
faith.
A framework, yeah.
Yeah, I already have a really, really strong faith base. So,
but you knew something was
off. I did, or
different.
Like didn't know what was going on. I remember kept saying that, like, what really is happening here? I didn't know, understand it. I embraced it though. You know, I didn't want to sleep. I thought I was gonna miss something. I do remember that. And I went on there's this house that was there's a road behind my studio. And I was shown to go underneath. The house is for sale. This is funny. The house is for sale. So I literally, okay, I'll just say this. When all this was happening, I thought I was like going crazy.
You felt like you were like didn't have a grasp on like
I didn't have a grasp.
Like losing your grasp of like everything that came before that. It's all like been tossed. It's like, okay, nothing I know is, I got you.
And then I began to doubt my mentality. Like, was I mentally thrown off? Like,
well, you're probably basing, I mean, I'm guessing, and I hate to interject, but like, you're looking, I mean, I can imagine, okay, so you've had this experience that you can't really frame. And then, like normal, you're going to look around the world and go, so that's what we call normal. That's what we call normal. This experience is normal. This thing's happening doesn't look anything like these normal things. My measurements are all jacked up.
Like, I'm in this new studio. I was getting it all together, and then all this happened. I had tore my studio apart where it looked like someone ransacked it because I was trying to figure out what I was doing wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Because Jesus was crying, so I was thinking I was doing something wrong. Right. And so, like, I had all my paintings everywhere, and I was doing the walk of the cross. I was doing all this stuff. I'm like, why are you still crying? You know, but it wasn't a bad cry. Now he wasn't crying in a bad way. So I went one of my night walks, and it was raining, and then this house was for sale, and I kept being drawn to this house, and she had literally, it seemed like a mile long rose bush. I was supposed to crawl underneath it. And I'm like, oh my God, it's raining, and I'm gonna crawl under somebody's rose bush.
So you're having a thought like that.
I'm doing it.
But okay. But as you're doing it, are you thinking that? Like,
yeah, I'm thinking like, what am I doing?
What am I doing? So you're even doubting. Yeah. You're compelled.
Yeah, I'm like, but I knew I was supposed to do it.
Yeah,
and,
okay.
And the angels were guiding me, like really, and so
audibly guiding.
Yeah, and physically.
And physically.
Okay. And so, but what it was showing me, and like things that you. Say you see a Nature Valley oats thing on the ground, okay? You think it's litter or trash, or you see a water bottle, and then you might see an empty vitamin thing on the ground, and that's a lot of that signs from the angels and God that, hey, you need to take better care of your health, and you may be getting dehydrated. That's the kind of signals they show me. Excuse me. And
signposts.
So, yes, it's messages everywhere, and then like that walk was a lot of that, and I mean the crawling. I still kind of try to think what was the point of me crawling under this rose bush for like a mile? I literally did, but it was little things like that I'd find underneath there, and then I saw like. Because another part of my gifts is I project things and I can see movies on a wall, I guess, to explain it that way.
Okay.
So I can see things. And again, I'm waiting for the day that it all comes together and we have full clarity. Because like I can see missing people and murders and stuff, but I don't know how to piece it together. And I'm shown that I'll help find the missing one day. But not to deter from that. So I went down that little army crawl. I'm full of mud, okay? This is the funny part. So I'm in their backyard, and they have this amazing bamboo looking garden thing, but they've made it into all this cool like little areas, and one set up for like planting little building rack thing where she would make all her plants for her garden. It's like amazing. And then these rock garden, and it was like, God, it's like heaven. I felt like I was in heaven for real. And then there's this, all of a sudden the spotlight came. It's really weird. And then there's a bucket on one side of this garage of a dead rose bush. This is the middle of winter, okay? This is right before Christmas. This is December. He showed up at my studio on 12/12.
What year is this? 2012?
16.
16, okay.
And then on the other side is one rose on a trellis. It was cold that winter too. And so one rose on a trellis, and then that dead rose bush. So I was shown to sit in front of that rose. All of a sudden, like, it was like the Matrix. This rose, the petals just started like coming off in front of my face, but floating. It was so weird. And just floating down. And I was crying because I thought I killed the rose. And it was just like a really emotional, powerful moment.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, I was covered in ladybugs. Yeah, it's weird, huh? It was really...
Is this at night?
This is at night. The middle of the night. And then that happened. And then I'm walking back. And then the old lady comes out of her house.
Really?
She was home.
So there was somebody there?
Yeah, she was still living there. But the way it always looked like it was empty and vacant and the house was for sale. So I had to explain, but it was really interesting.
Did you try to explain?
Not that. I just...
Yeah.
I don't even remember my words.
But yeah,
it didn't scare her.
You didn't tell her any
I think
of the...
God kind of handled that. Yeah, it didn't scare her or anything like that. And but it was just funny to me that she was home. But it's just been a really...
Well, it sounds like you've had a lot of experiences in a short period of time.
Yes, I have.
And what do you think? I mean, was that... I mean, I'm always fascinated by this because, I mean, I know for me, I can sort of trace back what sort of keyed me up to be open to whatever happened, 20-something years ago. So I had some things that, like, happened in a row that sort of was like a, I guess I'd call it like a hammer knocking on the door saying, okay, I'm going to knock this latch off. And so those things was just that, knocking the latch off the door. And then once the latch was off, I was sort of ripe for something to happen. And I just wonder if you have anything like that where right up to that point was everything just sort of vanilla, like things were normal and no...
I don't think anything in my life has ever been vanilla. I've always had a really rough life, especially as a child and growing older, and then I got married and then we got divorced. But I had some things happen, but there was no mistakes on any of that because it was supposed to all happen the way it did. But like with the studio, I've always, when I know something and I want it, I go after it and I do it full force. The studio, I did it by myself for 4 years, everything. And I was at a point where I was exhausted. But also I'm shown to, God will push it on you. Like when it's time, it was time. It was my time. Like it had to happen. And I think for it to happen, there's no way. It had to happen for me to close and do everything I've done for the purpose of, I had to kind of like be away from everyone and the norm of having a job and doing all that extra stress to go through the advancement of what I've been through. Because it would have been really, I think, traumatic for me to have that job or to be doing stuff that normal people would do on a daily basis. Because I would really, I think, be crazy, like feel crazy, because you have to learn to center yourself and to clear your energy and clear yourself where you're not taking on everything from the world. And it's not like to master it, because it takes a long time to master that, but it's learning the difference between certain things with people who have our gifts, understand, I guess, my place in the world. I'm still trying to figure that out, I guess.
Yeah, sure. How old are you?
I'm 36.
36, okay. Yeah, I mean, I get everything you're saying in a lot of regards. I mean, not exactly the same way, but I think I struggle. I call it struggling. Maybe that's not the right word, but I do struggle with sort of like the two me's, I guess, you know, and I mean, two maybe isn't even enough. Two's just really oversimplifying it. But there's the one that can do the normal clock, as I sometimes call it. Just I can step into the clock and hang on to the hands of time and do all this stuff, 9 to 5, sleep when I'm supposed to sleep, and be involved and do all of that. And then there's the other me that like that clock is non-existent. I mean, that's that part. As the years go by, that part quickly is becoming more prevalent and wanting to just rip those hands off the clock and not do the clock. You know, I did the clock, and I get it. I get that's the world that we've built. Mm-hmm. Right, but it's not what we're supposed to. Yeah, that other part that just says, it's like not even a whisper, it's a really loud voice that says this isn't the way it's supposed to be.
But then it's hard. Okay, I get that. And then Jesus says, well, everything's unlimited. Well, then show me, because I believe that, and I do, like in my heart and soul, and I live like that. But when the way the world lives is based off of money, and it's based off of this, and it's based off of that, and then you live in a certain,
Sure. We're building constructs,
balance like the way I live is that free spirit world, and it's no clock, and it's this and that, and you're not supposed to rush because you're never late. That's one Jesus keeps telling me all the time. You're never late. You're never late. You're not supposed to live by the clock. You're never late, because even if you are so-called late, I'm saving you from something.
Sure.
It's how many times have I been and I tell my kids, see, you're freaking out, we're late about something. Look, that person got in a wreck. That could have easily been us, because we would have been there at that same exact time. It is true. And or you were supposed to meet someone. You're running late because you were supposed to do this, because you were supposed to run into someone. It's a domino effect.
Sure. I mean, when you think about it, I haven't talked about this on the podcast yet, but 2 years ago, I was hit by a car. And I think about that day quite a bit, because it just was a reminder of how many things can, with expert archer precision, all come together. Yeah. And when you really think about that, that's a lot. That's amazing. And so, yeah, just to quickly paint that scenario, just as an example of how a moment in that in the linear line of time all those things can converge. I had been getting up every morning and going on these prayer walks and watching the sun come up, and I had been doing that for months and months and months and months. But I kind of hit a point where, that was my conversations with God. I mean, the vibrations and everything, all that it was forming and everything's getting in sync. I could feel it happening, and things were changing. But on that particular day, I was walking back, and I was praying a rosary, and a couple of days before, my wife had said, I'm worried about you walking. You're going to get hit by a car. I had bought some blinking things to wear. It was like this whole awareness of hey, it had been brought up, but I was like, oh, whatever, that's my prayer time. And sure enough, here it is a week later, after my wife and I have both had this discussion, and I've taken all the precautions to stand out more on the side of the road. I'm praying a rosary, I'm walking, I get hit by a car. And the lady who hits me, she gets out, she's pregnant, she was praying and listening to some kind of Christian radio station, and it was like the perfect moment. And then the other thing about that was the way I got hit. I have it's in the corner of my walking stick. I've had it for years and years. It's very special to me, and I have it in my left hand instead of my right hand that day, and I got hit on my left side, and the way the car hit me, I was injured, but I didn't get killed, and my arm wasn't broken. And even the guy with the fire department who came out says, I'm surprised it didn't snap. It should have snapped your arm. And I said, well, I was holding my walking stick and my elbow was up. He goes, oh, so your arm went forward like this. And it was just all of those little things. You could sit and write down the minutia of all the tiny little details. Yeah. 5 minutes earlier, 2 minutes earlier, a foot and a half to the right, stick in the right hand instead of the left hand, walking on the opposite side of the road, taking a little longer to get my coffee at the gas station. All of those things could have changed. And in that moment, what happens is I go, oh man, my wife was right. I shouldn't be walking on the side of the road. I need to stop doing this. It is getting dangerous. So I decide, Nicole, who you met earlier, she says, well, that could be temptation. You could either stop doing that, which is very important to your spiritual life, or maybe lean into it. And I said, that's what I'll do. I'm going to go walk in town at the Grove, right? And it's safer there, and it's just a different location. And I didn't really want to do that. But as I got there, and I went there and started doing that. A week later, they started doing construction right there by my house. That whole road got tore up anyway. But I couldn't have even walked there anyway. So it was like the timing, just all of that. And from that, I ended up meeting a whole new group of people. It turned my spiritual life in a different direction. New encounters, new gifts, new blessings. And I think about that, how had that little moment in time hadn't converged, in that precise way.
It's all important.
Yeah, so you can just go, oh, and on one hand, I guess if I had died, to some people that would have been like a really important event. You see what I mean? Like, then my children's life would have changed, my wife's life would have changed, my whole family's life would have changed. But for me, I got injured and I walked away, and then it's very important. It's because I could just tell you that story. Oh yeah, I got hit by a car the other day. I had to go get 18 stitches. Yeah, it wasn't that bad. I'm okay, and then left it at that. But the gravity of a moment, how valuable every little thing could be.
And
it's injected with grace.
It's not that it could be; it is valuable. And
right? If we could just like look at it and like
can just
drink from it, yeah.
And as long as we continue to live this way, and you continue to do what you're doing, people are gonna catch on, and they already are catching on. Like, even with my art, they're catching on to and me posting the photos of the clouds and posting things as I do. I may not understand it fully, and I may not be really great at marketing and all that other kind of stuff and keeping up with things because my life's busy, but doing that and consistently doing that, it helps open up the eyes and the hearts of other people to stop and smell the roses, stop and look at things for more than what they are.
Right.
Because you're missing the minor opportunities of what God is trying to show you that's beautiful.
Sure. Well, and that goes full circle to what I think we even started this conversation talking about was your paintings. Okay, so they're beautiful and it could be hanging on a wall anywhere. I could walk by that, and how many people will walk by them and go, oh, and walk by and go, that's nice, and not really stop. But what I love is knowing, just seeing what you're doing and the way you're using your spiritual gifts combined with your, worldly talent of art, and being able to take the time to go, oh, look at how it's unfolding, and here's the message in here. It's something that just walking by someone may not capture, but you're diving in. It's a book into itself. And
I keep showing them I have a book. Like, that's why I try to do I'm trying to learn how to handle that side of it professionally, to be more professional with my art, for people to take me seriously, because I paint primarily with my fingers.
Do you?
And so people know Iris Scott. She's famous, and God keeps showing me I'm number 2, and they said she's the only one in the world. No, I do it as well.
So I didn't realize
I'm sure there's other people that do that too, but I do. It's primarily just all with my hands. And my son noticed the other day when I was trying to finish up that painting, I knew it wasn't done when I brought it. I knew it wasn't going to sell because it's not supposed to, but I knew I was supposed to bring that painting there for a reason to that show.
That's the one. What is it called?
Haven't really named it yet.
Okay,
But they called it One Source. Or God's Source is what they called it, because the Redemption of Eden.
Yeah, Redemption of Eden. That's what I was thinking of. Okay,
the Redemption of Eden.
Yeah.
And my hands will be like it's like stamps. Like, I have a photo of my hand was black and how the paint underneath it, and looked like all faces all over my hand. And my son was using the different filters and was like, it looks like a movie, Mom. It's changing. And it's really, really neat. There's so much more to it. But that's how I love when I do the layers, because doing the layers of the paint and just my hands, and I use a rag, paint, in my hands, and a spray bottle. I
didn't know that. I really wouldn't have actually expected that, to be honest, because there's a lot going on in your paintings.
And that's what I love about it, is because everything that's coming forth, and it's like my hands are stamps. It's really cool.
What does that feel like when you're painting? And
I'm like, oh my God, wow, this is so awesome. I get so excited.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, to really do that with your hands.
I did that. I'm like, what? That's just like amazing. Because sometimes it's weird, because I'll take photos on my phone instead of actually looking. I'll have to take a photo on my phone to kind of get a grasp of it, and I'll be right in front of it, but for some reason that photo brings it together for me. I don't know, because when I'm looking at it in person, I can see it move. It's like my painting is alive. I'll see things move, and they're vibrating, and so when I look at a photo, it does the same thing, but it's different. So it's It's amazing. I amaze myself, and it's not me bragging
No, I
about
understand
myself.
what you mean.
It's not at all. It's just I'm coming into my own and trying to figure out like who I am as an artist.
Yeah.
And it's evolving, and it's like evolving beautifully. I'm just waiting for that art manager to contact me. That's all.
It's kind of what I think a lot of us, and I think I don't remember who I was talking to on the show, but it's sort of like an idea that's out in the world that your big break is coming. And, it may not be what we think it is.
Nope.
The big break may not be what the world is saying a big break looks like. Because there is sort of that illusion out there that everybody deserves fame and everybody's going to be a great this, that, or the other. Everybody should have their own show. And I don't know.
I don't even care about that. It's not about fame for
Sure,
me at all. It's not about spotlight. It's about healing and wanting the world to experience it and to see the softer side, I guess. And I want to show there's more to life and more. It's not about famous, and I'm not about money. But, money does comfort for certain things, but I'm not like that at all.
Well, in a way, it sounds like your art combined with you, or really you and your art as a tool, is a way to communicate with people what's been revealed to you, and a way for you to share that.
And that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
And that's what I know what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah, I think what I see, just from what I know from, again, experiencing it online, is that you are doing that. I mean, and very well, too. I mean, because it really piqued my interest immediately. I said, there's something different happening here than just, here's a cool painting that I painted. There are several artists that I follow online and that I kind of, I guess, stalk or whatever, or that I admire would probably be the right word. And, what I love is, initially you see it with your eyes and you process it and you either like it or you don't. But what I really love about that, being able to do that, is that I get to see the person. Like, you get to see what they're going through. You get to see, like, if they're sick, or if they're healthy, or if they've had a birth or a death or an experience, or if they have some kind of spiritual awakening, and just being able to add that to the art. I don't know. There's just that. It's the value of humanity, I guess.
It is. And you saying, like, me posting it really has helped people, because I have so many people that contact me now, and people that I know and friends, and that me posting my experiences and just even my art alone, they're going through their awakening, and so they understand it now, and they understand my art now.
Yeah.
Because of that I'm helping them go through and be able to open themselves up more to people, which it means a lot to me to be able to do that, because I know how hard it is and how hard it was for me in the beginning, and even opening up to my family and without them thinking that I was crazy.
So, this is interesting. I don't know. I'm just having this thought as I'm sitting here with you, and you may already do this, but I guess the best way I could frame it is, if I were buying or redecorating a home, and as I bring in an artist that people recommend, and I say, look, here's my space. I want you to paint something. You're the artist for this space. And then you just go, I like what you've done. Just do whatever.
Oh.
For you, what I see is it's I don't know, again, just as I'm listening to you, it's almost like you're doing that for people. Like, if a person, that's almost like a gift in itself, to go, here's a painting that I painted when I put my heart on you.
I paint their soul.
You paint, yeah. Do you do that for people?
I do. I started,
Okay.
I didn't realize I was doing that, and I did one recently. I love when they give me full range.
Yeah, like, here I am. What is my painting?
That's who I am as an artist. I don't like to be constricted to certain things, because that's just not who I am. But I paint their soul. And even when I'm doing paintings for, like this painting I'm working on, I don't know who's going to buy it, but I paint with intention, and I pray as I paint that whoever buys it has the healing within it, and that the stories or whatever that needs to be told will be shown to them. But I did a recent one for one of my really dear friends, Tina Guidry, and I painted her soul, and it came out as kind of like her childlike soul came through it, but it had messages in it for her that she knew, and like she still sees stuff in it. Like she will always see stuff in it. I have people that I painted for years ago that still see things come through their art, and it's been like 5 or 6 years, and I didn't realize what I was doing back then.
And that's how life is. I mean, in a way, I mean, that's exactly what we're talking about, is that you can look at these things that have happened in your timeline or beyond your timeline, and at certain points of your life, without perspective, you don't know what they mean. And then you look at it again and you go, oh, I had no idea the value of this thing that was happening. And your paintings are doing that for people in a way. It seems like it's a living thing. And that's awesome. I mean, what a gift, in my opinion, to be able to provide that for people. I don't know. It's just it's a blessing. I'm
really humbled by it. I don't know how to fully take it in, I guess. I'm really, when I get around people or like the art community, I get real sheltered and quiet. I don't know why I do.
Yeah, that's where I was going to ask you. Do you have any thoughts about why that is?
It's not a confidence thing, and it's not that I don't feel worthy of it. I don't know yet. I'm not sure. I don't know if I'm just in a space now in my life where I'm needing that space, and I don't know. I honestly can't explain that part, but I do get really awkward, and I used to not be that way. I'm very, very outgoing, and I'll go talk to like, if it's someone I know recently, I've noticed that I've been real sheltered and I get real awkward.
Sure.
But a stranger, it's like I've known them forever, and I don't understand it, and maybe there's something I'm going through I don't fully understand or grasp yet. Yeah. But it may be just a part of a shift I'm going through.
I think I feel like I can relate to that in a lot of ways. I mean, I've never fully felt at home in this industry. You know, not that we can't do the thing. It's just that I can't wear the suit.
Yeah, it's
it takes to that typically goes with the thing. Exactly. I don't know if that makes any sense.
It does make a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. And it's not that sometimes I feel like they will, another part of, I can know when people are being genuine, they're lying, or I guess they call it ESP or something, where you know when people are thinking sometimes. But I feel like some think that I'm snobbish, and I'm so far off that. I'm just really to myself, because I'm just trying to figure out where I fit in. Yeah. I don't feel like I fit in certain places, and I don't know where I fit in the art world, and it's really hard not fitting in or knowing where you do fit in and where you're supposed to be as an artist. And yeah. Some people are like, your art's too busy, you need to do this, you need to do that, you should focus on this more. But that's not who I am. I'm not.
Yeah, I saw something like that online where you said people were saying their art was too busy. And I guess for me, and maybe not everybody, but when I saw you write that, I had a lot of thoughts about it immediately. I almost felt jolted by it. I was like, oh, I would never...
Yeah, I've been told that several times recently.
But it's because I don't feel that from your art. Like, I don't look at your art. I don't know, it's probably not a compliment, but I don't look at your art and think of it as, God, I don't even know how to say this. Like, yeah, it's art you hang on the wall, okay? And it would look lovely in a room, but I don't look at it that way. I'm looking at it like, especially sitting here with you now and hearing what's happened and why it is the way it is. I would look at your art now and go, yeah, is it busy? I don't know if I'd use that word. I'd call it very dense, dense with meaning. And it's going to continue to bless my life over a period of time. So it's not really like art. Some art. It makes
total sense too, because I don't see it as like, okay, so a lot of people have all this art for their home, and they do, I guess, quick quick art. I don't know how to explain
No,
it.
I know what you mean, like decorative art. Yeah.
It's, God keeps showing me like fine art, or I don't know how to explain it. I don't know how to explain it. I don't see it. I understand what you're saying. I don't see it. It's bigger than that. If that makes sense.
No, I get it. Yeah, I do.
Like
you're injected with. I mean, hearing your tale, your art, and this is just the way it is. And for better or for worse, by standards of whatever that even means, art standards. I'm just gonna make a blanket statement that means nothing, but by art standards, it is art.
Yeah.
Okay, but hearing your story in context with it, they're actually messages.
It is.
They're paintings and they are made with paint and they are on canvas. Yes. However, what you're looking at isn't just that, right? And then that's what I get. And now, having heard you explain all of that, it makes it even more beautiful to look at, because it isn't just like, oh, that looks so nice in your kitchen. No, it's like, no, it looks really nice in your life.
Yes, that's
because this is for your life. It's for your heart. It's for your soul. And it's going to pour out on your family. And when you're gone, it could even pour out on the people that come after you. There's meaning there. Yeah. I mean, that's just what I'm hearing. I don't know.
Exactly.
It's just a different way of looking at art, I guess. But that's the hard thing. And I guess in a way, that's kind of what I love about a show like this and a format like this, because what other way can we tell people that, unless they just look at it and go, I'm getting something from this?
A lot of people don't understand art, especially my mom. She does not get it, but she's opened up her mind a lot, and I've been around me so much, she's opened up herself to seeing unseen and things that she normally wouldn't understand. I get so excited about it. And like my family, my niece Adley, or even my son, my daughter sometimes, but like to look at the clouds, oh my gosh, look what that is. And just pushing that envelope and pushing the limits means everything to me, the smallest little things, because they pass that on, and it means a lot. And it means a lot to God too, because that's his creation.
Well, it's like, that's what I love on our when you really look around at the world, you see pattern and form, not chaos. I mean, it looks like chaos a lot of times in certain perspectives, but I tend to, when I can, which is not all the time, but when I can relax my mind and get out of the clock and pull back, I try to whatever capacity a person can to take a God view or a holy view or a divine view, whatever it is, and just step back and breathe for a minute and go, how is all this flowing together, in and out, making new things, using all the little tiny components of creation, and seeing all these just beautiful patterns, and then you pull back and you just keep pulling back and you see just nothing but order, not chaos. At certain levels, it just looks like chaos. It can be kind of a mess, or it seems like it's a mess. I don't know. I think sometimes too, we feel like we have to fix something. And I mean, I know I'm guilty of that. Like, I have to fix this. I have to roll up my sleeves and fix this.
But it's not our job, and that's what I'm.
Yeah, it's already being fixed. It's kind of already fixed.
It is already fixed. Just kind of going through.
That's the other thing that's hard to comprehend. You talked about something earlier, and it reminds me of that. You were talking about the way you saw something. I can't remember what it was. Oh, Lake Charles. You were talking about Lake Charles and how you just saw the water is clear, and then the way you were describing it. And I thought, that's sort of the resurrected body. That it's not all death and blood and pain and sorrow. In the divine view, it's resurrected already. It's made new. And so when you were describing Lake Charles, I kept thinking, well, you're describing the city on a hill. You're describing the resurrected Lake Charles. The resurrected body of it is clear water, and it is joyous and vibrating properly, right? I mean, is that kind of...
It is. It's how I see it in the future of it and what it's becoming.
Yeah, and in a way, you're actually it is that way. It's just sometimes it's the veneer of the buildings and the way things are in our timeline right now. Guys, somebody's going to listen to this and go, what are they talking about?
Because you do change timelines. I changed one in Montana. I can't explain how that happens, but I do know that happened.
So tell me about this rock. You said it's a fossil, the rock that you brought me?
It is. It came from the megaliths at Mount Ellen.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's awesome. I was such a gift.
And you can see all the fossils.
Yeah,
the
I
things
do.
within it. It's really cool.
Yeah, well, that's a treasure.
Like 50 pounds of, well, even more than that, because I mailed them home, and I'm still giving them out. I still owe people. I would pick them up for certain people I knew intuitively I was supposed to grab them for, and I had extras, and I knew I was supposed to bring you on. So
that's two gifts that I think are great to give people: is a found nature gift, and then just a gift of yourself in some way, whether it's your time or whether it's just making something for them or writing them something. I do think that that's high value. Those are the things I remember more than objects. I mean, I remember objects. I have objects that I hate to use the word idolize, but I do have objects that I treasure because they have like that stick, the way it came into my life, how long I've had it, and it's been on almost every major leg of my life.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I treasure it. I mean, to somebody else, it's just a stick, but to me, I go, well, no, it's been there with me. My blood's on it, my sweat, many, many miles of prayer and tears and walking. So yeah, when I hold on to that, it's just a piece of wood, but I feel like, I treasure it. I don't think anybody could give me anything for that. I don't know what. I
feel that way about my art, though. I have a really hard time at putting price.
Yeah.
I don't view it as that. It's one thing that's why I joked about an art agent or a manager, is because I struggle really. I struggle really hard putting a price on it, because my heart, my mentality doesn't see it as that. Even though it's my livelihood, I struggle really hard, because I might put 150 hours into a painting.
Sure.
Get a quarter of, you know what I mean? Like,
no,
not
yeah,
even
your
a
times.
quarter of that back in time, but it's not going to keep me from putting that same amount of time and value and love and healing into a painting based on a price, because I am who I am as an artist, and I'm not going to short someone on something I feel that they are supposed to have based on money. Yeah.
That's always going to be a struggle for anybody that's got any kind of spiritual inclination. And if it's not, then I would say that maybe even they need to dig deeper, because here's the thing. I mean, just to throw scripture out there, and I'm not a big Bible thumping, beat somebody over the head with scripture, but there are scriptures that stand out, and one is you just can't serve God and mammon. You can't have two lords. It's always stuck out to me, and it's a big part of my life. It's one of the biggest things that gnaws at me. It's like, a lot of the things that stop us from doing good have just to do with servitude to the coin.
Yeah.
And it keeps us from helping our brothers and sisters. It causes us to build walls and protect our own, and this is mine and that's yours, and I have mine and you got to work for yours, and too bad you're not as lucky as me. It's just all these beehive of thoughts that I have about it, and I'm like, it really is. We were talking about it this morning. The chasing of money is a religion all unto itself, and it has its own set of rules. It has its own 10 commandments. And so, yeah, I think Christ was definitely onto something there, for sure. And that's a bigger statement than we really maybe put on it. It's a way of living he's trying to tell us, but we've just built a world that's even more enshrined to it.
That's true.
So it makes people like you, which you have all these gifts and these revelations and the way of seeing and doing, and art is your gift and it's your vehicle for sharing them. It's hard to take that thing that's so saturated in your spiritual life and then slap a dollar sign on it, because in a way it's sacrilegious, if you want to call it that. Sacred. Yeah. That's difficult.
I pour my whole soul into my paintings.
And then, so what's the price of your soul?
Exactly. That's how I view it. That's why I get so aggravated when people try to, what's your worth, or they'll say that painting isn't worth, or like, who are you to put a value on that? Where is the gauge, and who are you to put $1 billion price on this tag? And then I don't like that part of the art world.
Sure.
I really don't, because again, who are you to put a price tag on that?
Sure, I get that. Look, I have this little leather bag that I've had probably since I was 17 or 18 years old, and I don't carry it around anymore, but for many, many years I did. And in that bag, the way I treat it, it's in this box, and I mean, most people close to me know it means a lot to me. And you couldn't offer me anything in the world for that, because what's in that bag is junk to most people. A piece of wire, a tooth, a feather, a rock, a bunch of rocks. But every single one of those things was something that I picked up in a moment where I felt it was special. Not just, I want to remember this moment, but I feel the universal harmony is what I always used to say. Right now, where these things happening, I feel aligned and alignment, and I would look for something. Or sometimes I wouldn't be looking, and it was just a way to remember. That is trash to some people, you know, and maybe someday it'll end up in, who knows, it could end up in a trash pile somewhere. But for me right now, the unseen, untangible things that are associated with those objects are of more value than the thing I've spent the most money on in this world. So it's hard.
I have collections of everything, like in bags or like wire baskets, like hanging, and they're full of rocks and feathers and treasure, all that kind of stuff.
Well, you know, that's we have this shed at our house, and it's full of boxes from, like, I was married and divorced, and I have boxes and boxes of things from that life that have just never really been properly sorted through, because it was just all so quickly, and you know, you box it up and then you move and you move and you move, and so they're in the back. And every year when I go dig out our Christmas lights, I get an opportunity to kind of rummage around in there, because I'm moving things around. I'll go, oh, what's in this box? And the things I find are like, it's like your own your archaeology in your own life. And so many times I'll open a little box and I'll go, oh, I remember this box. What did I put in here? And then I'll open it up and it'll have these totally unassociated things, but I've found things in there where I go, oh, I remember putting this in here, and it's something very special. Like, I found a little glass bowl that I baptized my daughter with, and I was like, you know, I put it in here to keep it, but for, you know, 15, 16 years I didn't think about it. But when I did get to that box and I opened it up, and that just a little simple glass bowl that could mean nothing to anybody else, you know, the salt was still like fused to the bottom of the glass. And so I opened it, and it was at the right time in my life for me to really appreciate it again. So there's like all this energy associated with that object, all this love and history, and it comes back into my life through that personal archaeology at a perfect time. And now it's being used for a spiritual purpose again, you know. It's just awesome. A simple bowl. And, you know, that to me, where's the value? I can't tell you. Someone would say that's foolish. I mean, someone could give me what they call a life-altering amount of money for that bowl. And I'd probably have to have a meeting with my wife about it. like, look, this is a lot of money. It could change a lot of people's lives, but would I give it? Would I do it? That's an interesting question, because it's something we don't really stop and think about. Like, would I really? I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know. It's something to contemplate, for me to meditate on, because it goes back. It makes me think of your art. How do you quantify art when there's a spiritual dimension to it, not just it's a hobby or it's fun? Which, I mean, I'm not demeaning people that do it for that, because I do art for that too, for fun, and you know, it's not belittling it in any way, but there's just different reasons to do art.
There is.
I guess there's just like there's different reasons to speak, different reasons to sing,
different reasons to dance.
Yeah, right. Well, We do this thing on this show. I don't know if you've heard of the fishbowl.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what I did, these are questions that people have submitted. Some of them I've put in there, but it's growing.
Okay.
And so what I ask people to do is take 3 of them out, and then I'll read them to you, and we'll discuss them.
Okay.
I always get excited about this because I don't know if I've answered all these questions.
That's 2 and 1, so there we go.
All right. All right, so let's see what we've got in the fishbowl. Oh, this is, man, this comes up. I don't know how this one gets drawn every time. There's a lot of them in there, but this question gets drawn every time. Why be good when no one is watching?
Because Jesus is always watching.
There is a watcher.
There is always a watcher. And always a watcher. When you think someone's not watching, there's always someone watching. Always someone watching. And I'm shown that we're never alone, which we are never alone. We're never alone. We're never alone. So
I understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah. My wife and I were just talking about that the other day. Maybe not based on that question, but not feeling alone. Just I never feel alone or lonely.
Because you have angels around.
Yeah, I feel surrounded by dimensions. I talk about that a lot, that we're walking through spiritual dimensions all day, every day.
We are.
Permeated by energies and things that we can't see. You know, it's interesting because we believe in our cell phones. And I always find it very funny how easily we believe in our cell phones, and we believe when we turn on the radio that there's a sound coming through, and we can't see it. I mean, yeah, we can measure it,
the frequencies and everything,
but I mean, my hands, it's moving through me right now.
Yeah.
So what is so hard about understanding that there's other dimensions and energies that we're walking through? And you know, physics is showing that too. Studies are showing that there are obviously vibrations and frequencies and things that we just cannot really perceive.
Just like my sister, she's a nurse practitioner, and a lot of people, they think a certain way, you know, logical, or they're scientific, and they want proof, like proof right then, proof. And she's slowly opening up to her own gifts and to certain things, and it's beautiful to watch someone that is so stern and hardcore, like against something, but blossom and open up, and like, wow, this happened. I noticed this. I noticed that. You know, it's just really beautiful to tear down that wall and to be vulnerable, to accept or to see something that's different than what you're normally used to. And it goes back to fear and the mundane and what they're used to. And I don't know, it's just neat. It's just neat.
Yeah, I do. I like that in my children. I like it whenever my children say things and I go, oh, you're right on the edge of something right there. You know? It's pretty amazing.
It is very amazing.
I've had conversations like that with my son, and I'm like, well, he's getting into territory. So I always want to push it a little further. You know, I'm like, oh, you're in that heartland right now, you know? You're navigating your heart, and you're trying to say, like we were talking one day about, you feel it in your heart. He kept saying, I feel it in my heart. I was like, well, where's your heart? Well, it's right here. I'm like, but that's your heart, where your heart's at. What are you feeling with? Because you're not feeling that with your heart. It's just pumping your blood. Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm calling it my heart, but I don't know. I feel something, and it's like right here. And so we kept talking, and I was like, you're in that zone, man. You're like right in that spot where we all need to like seek it. When you get into that place where you're contemplating why you feel something, and it doesn't feel like it's in your head, it feels like it's somewhere else, keep going. Just keep going. You're going to get there. Do it every day, and you're going to find your way to a different place. All right, question 2. And this is a new one. What compulsions do you have? That's a tough one. I mean, it's not tough, but I mean, as I read that, I'm like, oh boy, there's a lot for me. I feel compelled to do all kinds of things.
my main thing is like I like envision myself as like Superwoman, if that sounds so weird. Like I don't see myself as, sometimes it's like I just want to like save the world. I do, and I have to step back and I just feel compelled to like just want to help everyone. But I drain myself, and I don't take care of myself because I'm like help everyone and try to solve everything. I want to be the answer. I don't want anyone around me to hurt or to want, and just to be that person. And that's just something.
Well, you're a sensitive person, and I don't mean sensitive emotionally. I mean, you're sensitive spiritually. And in a way, when you're like that, it's kind of like reaching in to eat a Cheeto. You know, you might grab one, but when you pull your hand out, your knuckles have cheese dust, and everything else has cheese dust. Before long, your clothes have cheese dust, and then you can't get it off.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm like that too. I get it. I'm like, I pick up other people's stuff, like just, you know, static. You know, yeah. But I've been like that a long time, and it can exhaust you. Because you don't even know what's eating at me. For me, it's like something's eating at me, and I'm like, but everything's fine. What's eating at me? And it's usually not me. It's somebody else's stuff eating at me.
It is. It's always me. Everybody else's stuff. You look exhausted. I'm like, okay, I need to center myself, ground myself, and
and that's you got to make time, because like I did that recently. I went out to Holly Beach, and which, you know, ultimately isn't like a beautiful paradise, but it was just away, and there were no people out there. And I sat out there for 4 hours on a log and listened to the waves, and it was nice. My mind just let go, my thoughts cleared, and it was just nice to be away from just all thoughts and stuff, just for a little bit.
Nature does it.
Sure, it's built in. It's there for that in a lot of ways. We use nature in sort of a cruel way, but it's really got everything built into it that we really need. I mean, everything comes from it anyway.
I try to be out in nature as much as possible.
Yeah.
I went to Kisatchie with my really close friend not too long ago, and going hiking. I started all the hiking and all that this year, going to West Virginia, and then I went to Montana. But like just even locally doing it and staying out in nature is really important.
Yeah, I agree. My son and I went to Kisatchie.
I saw that.
Did you?
We went and we had so much fun.
He had never been. You know, I was sad. I kind of felt ashamed when we were driving up to Natchitoches. He was just commenting on the light through the trees. It was a beautiful day, and the colors. And he said, "Man, it's just so nice." And I said, Have I never taken you to Longleaf Vista?" And he said, "I don't know what you're talking about." And I said, "Oh man, okay." And so we took our little detour through there, and we just got out of the truck and we walked through Longleaf Vista. And I felt ashamed that I'd never taken him. But when he was younger, he didn't really like the outdoors, and he really kind of almost
take the kids now.
Hated it. Oh, he loved it.
Where you went, I'm gonna.
Yeah,
my kids.
Have you been there, Longleaf Vista?
When we went, I don't think we went there. I think it was closed off like a detour. It was so weird.
They did have. Oh my gosh.
See, everything was just closed off. Like when
the whole forest was closed off.
Yeah, so we had to go this back way. We ended up at ended up where there was 3 crosses, and then the cemetery. We went to a cemetery. Did you do the same thing?
Hey.
Oh my god.
You want to hear something crazy?
Oh my gosh.
That's Mount Carmel Cemetery. I got to tell you this story.
I'm gonna cry.
Okay, listen to this. I wondered what that meant. Okay, so look, I take a retreat to Natchitoches every year on sometime around August 1st, depending on how the weekend falls. And that particular weekend, I was praying a novena to Saint Joseph and Saint Therese. Because I just kept having things happen, and I usually try to follow when something's more than once and there's no reason for it. I go, okay, something's knock, 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 knocking the latch off my door. So that morning on that trip, I said, well, I'm going to go, I'm going to say it was the last day of my novena. And I had made a plan in my head that when I get to the 117 intersection to take you through Kisatchie, I will start praying a Saint Therese rosary, and it's this audio that I have, and it's like her readings from her diary or books or something. So anyway, and everything had kind of serendipitously had been leading up to that moment. So I was praying that rosary, and I get to where you're talking about, because they had the whole road shut off, and I went, oh, and I've never ever I've always just went on through. Well, I was like, well, you can only go left. You either go left or go back.
Yes.
And so I said, well, I stopped in that little shut down building right there. And I said, well, I'll just go left. And, the hills and the curves and nothing out there. So I was praying that rosary. And I get to the end of the rosary. Oh, and that morning, okay, I went and saw my wife at the chapel. And in the parking lot at the church, I had closed my eyes and I just had said a silent prayer. And I said, St. Joseph, St. Therese, if you're praying for me today, whatever needs to be revealed to me, I'm open. I just said, I'm open. And this is what I said out loud. I said, if you want to show me a sign, I promise I will look for it, however small it may be. And that was the words I said, a sign. So I'm saying that rosary, and I get to the top of the hill, and that cemetery... I'm literally, I've got my rosary in my hand and I make the sign of the cross, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. I come up to the top of the hill and there's that cemetery with a big brown sign that says Mount Carmel.
Oh, wow.
Well, St. Therese was a nun in the Carmelite order. And so Mount Carmel. And so I was like, whoa. And it just hits me like a ton of bricks because I would have never went that way. And the timing and everything just like lined up right on the nose. And I told my wife, I said, alignments, again, it's like the car thing. All these 10, 20, 40 things have to happen I have to leave at the right time. I have to start saying the rosary at the right time. I had to choose that. Those particular saints have to be coming up for no reason. Well, then I get to Natchitoches and I meet this lady at this gift shop and I keep it in my pocket. I get to this gift shop and we always visit and we were sharing stories. We have had some losses in our life and we're sharing these stories because I go there every year. And I'm looking around her shop and she said, what are you looking for? And I said, well, I'm looking for a St. Joseph medal. I said, I've kind of been having some things happen. And she goes, oh, hold on a second. So she goes in the back and she comes out with this little medal in her hand. And she said, this morning I left my house. I had bought this 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I left my house this morning and I got in my car and I was like, and I pull out the driveway. So I pull back in the driveway, I go back in and I put it in my purse. And she said, I want you to have it. And it's got St. Joseph on it.
Oh, wow.
But I turn it over and it's got St. Therese on the back, which those two don't typically, there's no reason for that to be. And I said, why did you do that? Because I don't know. I just feel like I just want to give that to you. And I didn't tell her all the stuff, And I said, this is just winks, wink, wink, over and over. Anyway, I don't know. It's just interesting you bring that up because I haven't thought about it. And I mean, I haven't, for somebody to know, because that road's not closed down anymore. But there was a particular time when that was, and that cemetery, and the crosses at the hill. That's wild.
That is wild.
Wild.
Yeah.
And what makes you happy? It just reminds you there's more going on than we think there is.
Yes, there is.
Got one more question. Okay. Ooh, okay.
Oh.
If all your dreams come true, what does that look like?
Whew. Man.
That's a big one.
That is a big one. Oh, wow. My dreams. I'll share some personal real quick. I've been like in a custody battle for about 9 years, but it's not because I'm a bad mom or anything. It's just the way the judicial system is, I guess.
Sure.
Money and things. That would be settled and squashed because I'm a full giver of love and light and battling something. I just want that squashed and just settled. And then my dreams as an artist, if I could I love teaching. I have a natural knack for it. My dream is to have a huge studio, and the space is just, I would love for artists to come in, other artists who don't have space to come in at their homes, doing the living rooms and things, just to come in and to paint. I want to eventually have a real art supply store within it, like it to be kind of like 2 big rooms, but I don't want like big, huge rooms where one's like a big store of like real authentic papers and authentic art supplies, and for people to come in and to test them out on canvases and draw and paint, and just to feel the love and the light in the room, and to be able to teach too and have like teaching classes. And my goal kind of is to have circle gatherings, and I've been kind of working on it, where we meet once a week of women, but men can come too, but primarily to start with women to help heal. They lost children or they're healing from a trauma, but to get together and have that trust circle where we come in and we paint it out and bring food and just talk and share love and light with one another, and to feel like they're not alone and to heal. And that's like a big dream of mine, and something to start and to do here locally.
Sounds like an art tabernacle.
It does. That's why I want it to be like an oasis, but it to be like a fun place, and all about originality and love, and kids can come in. And my goal, like with the art therapy thing, is nonprofit, but I want it to be where money isn't an issue, and that where people come in, kids can come in and just come in and paint off the street. And another part of the thing I'm working on is I want to do a thing with the homeless where, but I understand God showed me it'd have to be like a separate area, but them to come in and have certain days a week where they paint. And I want to have art shows every quarter for them, just for the homeless, them to have their own room, their own supplies, everything. They can come in, they can eat during the day, and then we work on their artwork for the few months, and then they have their show every quarter, and all their money goes to them to get on their own.
Have you, in a way, I mean, partnering sometimes is a great way to make dreams come true. Have you heard of the Beacon Center, where they do the haircuts and showers and stuff for homeless in Lake Charles? He was Bob Richard. He was one of the guests on the show. You might want to talk to him because, I mean, and again, I might be speaking out of turn because he has his own mission. And again, it's a divinely inspired mission to help the homeless. But the things that he's doing are very simple and small, and I mean, really about dignity. And I think, I don't know, those kinds of conversations and connections, sometimes that's how things can realize.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it might be worth at least just reaching out. Yeah, because I mean, it could be cool to come up with a way to, it could even be a way to raise money.
I have a lot of ideas to raise money, like a lot of ideas, like to do all that. It's just getting started, connecting, I guess, like you said, with the right people. Well, I mean, I know God gives everybody a different mission and imprints upon them whatever they're going to have, whatever he may, and whatever they are willing to receive and do with it, ultimately. But I think that, two people working together sometimes really can make something new. I don't know. It's worth it, reaching out. Yeah. Well, I'm so glad that you agreed to come on the show. Thank you for asking me and having me. It's been amazing. I really enjoyed it.
If I had to have a wish, and it's not and kind of going in that last question, a dream come true for me would be that anybody who comes on the show, one, that they feel like they've had an opportunity to truly be who they are and go into whatever territory that they really want to. And then the other thing is the listener. I always have this vision that someone's going to hear what somebody's saying and go, oh, I can relate to that, or I have a new understanding of something. And in your case, I hope that anybody who listens to this will go back and look at your art.
Thank you.
And go see what it is. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Not just go, oh, that's pretty art. I want somebody to go hear this and go back and go, there's more here.
There is.
Than what I saw the first time.
My first appearance on TV was with Amy Hebert, and I was super nervous. And how I explained my art, I didn't even realize exactly what I was doing then. I compared it to Where's Waldo. And that's kind of like been the joke. Because, you're looking for things within things.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, I think that's a good way to look. I mean, those are good exercises for the mind anyway. Just to see something beyond, what maybe you saw in your first take, and go back and look again.
Yes.
I would say that would be what if there's just one small nugget people could take away from this, it would be to look deeper.
Yes.
At everything.
At everything.
And I love you just